Your racism has no place here, no hatred, no fear.
Protesters gathered outside the U.S. consulate in Toronto, but their message was also for Canadian hate groups.
We are seeing these far-right formations take place in Canada, maybe not as advanced yet, but we have to show very clearly that we won't accept that here.
In fact, Canada has a long history of far-right neo-Nazi and white supremacist organizations. Back in the early 1990s, CSIS infiltrated one group called the Heritage Front, exposing some members who allegedly discussed attacking the offices of the Canadian Jewish Congress, even killing its CEO, a longtime tracker and critic of the neo-Nazi movement.
But let's call them for what they are. They are white supremacists.
That CEO was Bernie Farber, who now heads a group promoting worldwide racial harmony. He says after 2 decades of relative calm on the far right, the election of Donald Trump seems to have changed things, even north of the border.
It has given permission for racists in the United States and right here in Canada to pick themselves up out of the dung heap, dust themselves off, and continue about their hateful business.
He points to a group calling itself the Proud Boys, founded in the U.S. by a Canadian.
This is Canada. It might have been McMahon.
So you don't have Canadian ID?
It's best known in Canada for this July 1st confrontation in Halifax, where black-shirted members disrupted an Indigenous demonstration. Even with the apparent rise of the new far right in Canada, some hate crimes experts point to important differences from the U.S.
The movement tends to be a little muted here. We have different histories of racism that account for that. We have different histories of, being armed. We saw so many of the activists that were heavily armed last week in Virginia. We won't see that here.
Still, experts say Canadians should be prepared to see some violence as emboldened hate groups take to the streets more and more and are countered by anti-racism demonstrators. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.